The debate about the IoT and security was opened by analyst Robert Haim. He pointed out that if we don't have a problem now with security, we're going to have a lot of problems later. The IoT is just not secure, he said, providing evidence from his research. So, after the panel had introduced themselves, he asked how security testing can be done.
You know, the way that we think about it is from a security perspective, it's not about who you claim to be or the credentials you have, it's what you do. So even as a person, right, when you meet someone on the street, they may say they do X or they do Y, but reality is, what do you observe them doing over time? You know, that's the level of trust that you afford to those folks. And a lot of the way that we look at validating the analytics we do, the detection capabilities we do, is to study and to analyze the actual behavior of the systems, and then to flag the things that are out of line and inconsistent with the past behaviors of those entities. So whether that's an IP address, an endpoint, a login, or a claimed identity, what are the things that are standing out, both against their own performance, or rather behavior, and then the behavior of the population?
Well, it starts with two things mostly. The first is you got to do threat modeling. You've got to essentially take a device, and we don't produce end devices where software that runs on them, right? So you take any device. It could be the door, the now electric door opener, or it could be the SmartThings stuff we were talking about. You've essentially got to identify at a device level, network level, or application content level, what are the ways that this device could be exploited. And then you've got to go out to market. The second aspect is there's plenty of people already doing this. There are plenty of disclosures already. Last year's Black Hat, someone proved that 13 of the 15 automated door knobs could be opened within just a few hours of work. You showed 70% of IoT devices, consumer IoT devices, are hackable. That number is probably low. I think the people who actually do real work on these have a pretty easy time with most of them. So you essentially do threat modeling. You then identify ways that you're going to detect that, and go about building the solution around it. And really, awareness is the most important part.
I think one of the other things you have to do is, aside from your own internal vast resources on testing, is you have to look outside. And you have to look at your partners and be open to them testing your product. You know, on the chip fingerprinting side, Intel's enhanced EPID, their enhanced identity, they require you to go through a whole certification process. Put yourself through those partner certifications. Hire auditors. There's auditing firms for security today. Don't trust yourself. Get these guys to double check your engineers, double check your code. And then finally look to some of the community and open source projects to, again, ensure that there is a community of people that are double checking, rechecking, pushing on that code. So anybody who assumes that they can do it all themselves in this day and age, that's a tough thing. I think we all employ various aspects of this. I think it's critical.
You're literally able to infer health and risk information about players and their longevity. You're working in terms of reliability and rehabilitation coming back from injury. You're talking about millions of dollars in terms of contract negotiations as well. And so our heritage working with the primary industry certainly helped us build a valid case to be a partner with the NFL in capturing that type of information at the player level for the league. And it's critically important, and certainly I think about the first thing we talked about was referencing clients in other industries. When you're talking about the velocity and volume of data that we're working with in the NFL, it's very small comparatively to a retail environment or a financial environment or a manufacturing environment, so it worked right inside of our model very well.
Intel's been doing a lot of stuff in this particular space. There are a lot of companies building these really inexpensive trusted platform module chips that we could include, and how you build this. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built to take this into consideration. There's a lot of difference between taking a Raspberry Pi and writing a network stack on it and thinking that it's done, but taking the TPM, building the firmware, the encryption, the keys, everything that goes with it, and then bringing that up to a stage where you can put it inside an infusion pump or a dialysis machine that does not die in the process or cannot be compromised while it's working. I think it has to start at the hardware level if you have to kind of build that trust.
Please, yes.
So absolutely, in terms of the hardware level, is critical. So the good thing now is there's a number of newer mechanisms, and Intel announced their EPID, their enhanced privacy and identity for their chipset being available here this last spring, and I think you'll see a lot of expansion of that. What's starting to happen is rather than doing key management on the device, what you're instead doing is moving it up into the cloud, where all keys can be managed in the cloud, and you therefore lessen the processing burden, memory burden, battery burden of the devices.
And following questions from the floor, Robert Haim drew the session to a close.